Uh, hey guys, welcome to Chef Grace's Place. If you're new to the channel, we do food interviews and recipes every week. Today, my guest is Rachel Shapiro. She's part of the Florida Food Policy Council. She's the vice chair, correct? Yep. And I first saw the Florida Food Policy Council on YouTube, actually, when I was researching kind of like how the Florida food system works, because with the pandemic and everything, like the industrial food system kind of failed a little bit when, you know, with everyone getting sick. And from my background, I always was interested in like slow food and like small farms and stuff like that. And I think the industrial food system, I don't think it's going to go away, but I think we need to like diversify a little bit. But this is my first time meeting Rachel, and she's a chef. She's a food activist, basically, and has a lot of experience in it. So I'd like to hear about what you're doing and all that stuff.
Thank you so much for having me, Grace. I really appreciate it. And I really, when you had reached out and then I looked at your channel, and I could so relate to you because I've been a chef for 15 plus years, and COVID hit, and what else, I had to kind of pivot and think about how I was going to redirect. So I really admire you, starting your channel and just jumping in feet first.
Thank you.
So yeah, food's my life. I like to eat it, most importantly. I like to grow it and I like to cook it. And I also see food as like the great connector.
That's a good way to put it.
We live in a time where it's so easy to find reasons to not connect with someone. That when you sit down to break bread, that changes the whole dynamic.
Yep. When I was flying as a flight attendant before COVID hit, I think that's why I just connected with so many people, because I was just there for the food. I was like, really? So what are you eating? So what are you eating? What are you going to get? Like, guys, I found this really good place. Come on, let's go. Like that was my thing. So, and it didn't matter what the politics were. Everybody's got to eat.
Everybody's got to eat. So, it was interesting. You mentioned when you saw the breakdown in the industrial food supply chain, you started to do a little research, look into the Florida food system. I started looking into the Florida food system. First, I was a chef. I was a professional chef on private yachts, and I traveled the world and went to really cool places. And that's how I got interested in food, because I was going to these amazing markets that were in the streets on these islands and coming across food that I'd never seen or heard of, and then learning from the locals on how to prepare it. And I fell in love with the idea of local and seasonal before I knew that local and seasonal were like marketing terms. So I really just loved that whole interaction, that relationship with my food. And so I was chefing, and I decided that I wanted to transition to a more land-based, less transient lifestyle. And I decided to pursue health and wellness coaching as my means of bridging that transition. And when I started to look into the nutritional benefits of food and how we grow our food and how that impacts the nutritional benefits, that's when I became a food activist. I didn't agree with a lot of the decisions that were being made from top down. And I realized that I could either be a complainer, just sit around and be bummed about it. Or
what sort of policies are you talking about, like decisions?
Well, the first issue that actually caught my eye was GMOs.
Okay.
And specifically policy related, it was the labeling of foods.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Not just the
Um,
labeling of whether they're genetically engineered, but also the country of origin.
so I like recently I feel like when I was growing up, it was GMOs are just like evil, like bad evil. Um, and I wonder, as I look into it, I feel like some of it is, and some of it is like, breeding to make it like, the plant is changing to make it easier to grow and stuff. So are you like strictly anti-GMO? Are there any upsides to it? Like I don't know at this point.
I'm not strictly anything, by the way.
Okay. I like that. I don't like being married to the ideas.
I've learned through my life that it is not a black and white universe. We
That's
live in
true.
gray areas, and there is never just one right answer. Rarely
Yeah.
is there ever one right answer, especially on a topic that is unproven, such as GMOs are.
But with, and the thing with the gray area is I find that although life is gray, policies try to be black and white. And I feel like that's where we get in trouble.
It is where we get in trouble. And so it's up to us humans to use our best judgment and to be compassionate and generous with our other humans and with the humans that make the laws, because the humans that make the laws are generally trying to do the best they can. They may not always do it, but they do the best they can.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's easy to say that GMOs are bad or GMOs are good and they're going to save the world. What I do know, based on research that's out there, peer-reviewed research, is that glyphosate, which GMOs are engineered to withstand and is used in copious amounts on these plants.
So glyphosate, for people who don't know what we're talking about, is a pesticide, correct?
Correct. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup, which many of you might know from the Home Depot. It's a weed. It's a herbicide. It's a weed control mechanism, and it's a pesticide, so it helps keep pests down. There is peer-reviewed research that states that pesticide is detrimental to the human body, and it is actually carcinogenic or cancer-causing. I don't need to know more than that at this point. My health is very valuable to me. It's the most valuable commodity that I have. I'm not really worried about whether GMOs are good or bad. I'm going to stop at the glyphosate. I don't need to go any
So
further.
basically, the plant is resistant to it, so they can spray more on it. But then the humans are ingesting the plant sprayed with that herbicide, and it doesn't harm the plant, but it's going to harm the human.
Yeah.
And when things are sprayed with that, you're also, you're watering the plant, so it's getting into the soil. It's actually getting into the plant. So it's not like you can just wash it off.
You can't just wash it off. It's literally in the structure of the plant.
Yeah.
Not only is it in the structure of the plant, so you can't get away from it, nor can you get your kids or your family or loved ones away from it. It kills all pests. Let me say this. It kills all bugs. Not all bugs are pests.
Yeah.
And as humans, we may say they're pests, but the ecosystem or the environment may not agree with us.
Just like plants, we choose which ones are weeds and which ones are plants.
So not only are we now having a detrimental effect on our own health and well-being, we're actually contributing to our chances of contracting cancer, but we're now destroying our environment.
Yeah, that's not great.
And it's unnecessary. That's the third piece for me, is like, all right, well, these two things are bad in my world. Like, I don't like them.
Yeah.
Is it the only option? And the answer is no. We have
the cheapest
millennia of information on how to be more efficient and effective in our food growing techniques without using detrimental chemicals. So that seals it for me. Like, all right, well, it's bad for me. It's bad for the planet I live on. And we have a lot of better options. Okay.
So when you, like, backtracking, when you became aware of this, what were the things that you did where you're like, I'm a food activist now?
I became the co-director of the nonprofit GMO Free Florida, founded by Trish Sheldon. And I would go on, I helped to organize marches against Monsanto in downtown Miami a few years running. And I traveled up to the Northeast for a conference on genetically engineered foods and how we can become more informed and inform the general public about them and their impact on health. I would speak at engagements whenever I could. We had a booth at a local farmers market so that I could educate the public on genetically modified foods.
And I feel like a lot of my subscribers are very new. I just got a lot of subscribers from that pie dough recipe. So happy Thanksgiving, guys. So this is probably going to be the first interview a lot of people hear. And I don't think people really know what Monsanto is. So I'm gonna try to just, make sure all the information is there during this conversation. So Monsanto is the company that invented Roundup, and they also invented Agent Orange, if I'm not mistaken. Monsanto also is the first company to patent the genetics in a plant. Which is a problem for smaller farmers because the way plants grow, right? Pollen gets taken up into the air and it fertilizes other plants. And then that genetic material is in another plant. And then all of a sudden it's the property of Monsanto. So I'm not sure if you should be able to patent life either. That's something I have a problem with. Although everything they're doing with genetics, both human and plants, are pretty cool right now. That's definitely an issue that's going to be up in the future. Anyway, Monsanto
was bought out by Bayer, so you won't even hear that corporate name anymore.
Oh, wow.
A lot of bad press associated with it. And when they're started,
like the aspirin company, correct?
Yeah, they're a pharmaceutical company, a chemical company.
Yeah. That's interesting.
My personal journey didn't stop with the GMOs. I was engaged. I was the co-director of GMO Free Florida for a few years. And then I started to realize that my life energy could only be used in one direction at a time. And what I realized while I was activating and marching against something, I wasn't building something else at the same time.
Okay.
And so my choice shifted to advocacy. No longer did I want to spend my time banging against a wall saying, you shouldn't do that. What I choose now to do is use that very same energy to build what I believe is the way forward.
That's pretty awesome. I just got chills a little bit. That's good.
It was a big shift for me. And it was a shift that I made in my entire life. It was just a way that I now choose to relate to the world. I no longer want to tell you to stop. I'm going to just put my head down, get busy on showing you the amazing alternatives.
I think that's great. I think that can apply to many different things.
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah. Because I always have that, especially, when I was flying, I flew with people who had very different ideas than I did, and we would change each other's minds, which was something I loved about the job. You could really, especially because on the plane, they were like 10-hour flights and there's no Wi-Fi. So you have to talk to the person on the plane with you. And you don't get to choose who you fly with either. So I've had some really eye-opening conversations just because, you're there for 10 hours, you're going to start talking to someone. And it was great, but I also think there's always a point where, like people like dig in their heels and there's nothing you can do or say to change their mind, even if you're right. And at that point, I feel like the strategy of like, just show them, like don't, because a lot of times it's not about what you're actually arguing, it's about winning. And when it becomes about winning, you're not going to change your minds.
You said something interesting just now. You said, well, sometimes even though you're right, somebody digs their heels in. Well, who's to say you're right?
Well,
what is right? According to who? Because according to the other person, they're right.
Yeah, but not to go into too much detail, sometimes there's some very basic human things. You're right.
I challenge that attitude, because it's the attitude. It's not what we're talking about, but it's the attitude of I'm right and you're wrong that I think really lends to what I saw in my activism. For me, It wasn't useful.
Exactly.
It's just not useful.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, even if we all know like murder is bad, but you're not, if someone just wants to win, like they're not, you know what I mean? You're not going to change your mind.
What if the person you just murdered was about to molest 5 children? You don't know if it was bad.
Yeah, that's true, but there's probably other ways to like not.
So it's a philosophical discussion.
Yeah, like you go around in circles. That's what I'm saying. Like you're either gonna stand there for 10 hours and go around in circles, or you're just gonna like, let's try this, show you what I mean. And that's, at least if you don't agree with me, you're not wasting your breath because you've built something, like you said.
Yeah, I think Buckminster Fuller said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but what I took away was, don't worry about changing the system. Focus on building an alternative, and it becomes easy to switch. So at that point in my career, I decided to switch from activism to advocacy. And that's when I became part of the steering committee for the Florida Food Policy Council. I wanted to learn about food policy because I recognize that policy really is at the root of all the decisions that are made that govern our lives together in this society.
Now, one of the big things too on policy is people influencing it with money.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of that is like, you're never going to change anything because you don't have deep pockets? So like, how much do you think that really influences the food policy, like lobbying and stuff?
I'm not a lobbyist.
Okay.
When I say I started to want to learn about food policy because food policy governs every aspect of our lives, I believe in grassroots initiatives. So my way of getting involved in food policy was to become part of the steering committee for the statewide council and start to bring people together, the different stakeholders of the food system. Okay. And at the same time, to also get active at a local level and get involved in those conversations with my city commission and the city governance on what was happening with food policy in our city and in our county and in our region. So I'm not specifically, so that's my avenue of getting involved in food policy.
But I'm wondering, like, because it seems like the opposition to, especially staying with like GMOs and stuff, is going to be the companies that produce the chemicals, right? Mm-hmm. So how, you always hear about, like the big sugar, trying to, like not caring about pumping that fertilizer in. We had maybe like a year ago, the red wave or red tide or something. And they said it was because of the sugar, big crops dumping into the ocean. Mm-hmm.
It's the runoff from Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah. And you would think, oh, well, that's bad. We have to change it. I don't know if it got changed or what happened with that, but how much like how much does that make it difficult to like kind of get things that are for the people as opposed to for the bottom line?
So, what
Yeah, it's hard to figure out.
I'm not gonna step over that money plays a part in politics, and
Yeah, of course.
interests that have deep pockets often get heard louder than interests with shallower pockets.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's not a reality. At the same time, Grace, it doesn't govern how I choose to show up.
Okay.
Just because they have deep pockets doesn't mean that my voice needs to get any lower.
But I'm saying, trying to figure out how to phrase the question. Sorry. Do you like, I feel like in media it's represented as like it's so hard to change, like you might as well not try, which I don't believe. And
yeah, I don't buy that.
So I'm wondering if you have some maybe examples where it's just like, no, like if you do this and you vote for it and you know.
Well, you can look at the labeling for genetically engineered foods. Yeah. Major corporations in the grocery association and Monsanto, when they were still Monsanto, they were all lobbying using tens of millions of dollars to stop labeling foods as genetically engineered or genetically modified. Because of consumer demand and because of grassroots efforts like organizations like GMO, by organizations such as GMO Free Florida, we did get labeling on foods. And it was actually voluntary.
Really?
It was voluntary in the end. A couple of states passed labeling laws. And then as we were approaching that deadline for them to start, the manufacturers to start labeling, the larger manufacturers, because they could see the tide of human interest, they started labeling on their own.
Oh.
So it absolutely makes a difference.
That's awesome.
City officials are desperate to hear from residents. They don't have all the answers. They have a bunch of problems. They're the volunteers that step up and say, hey, I'm happy to help solve these problems, but they don't have all the answers. So when we as citizens step up and say, hey, I think I might have an answer for you, they're thrilled generally. Now, of course, we don't, our answer may not be the perfect answer, or it may not, we might have to adjust. But every day, citizens make a difference in policy simply by showing up.
I feel like that is good to hear, because I think a lot of people think of their, their officials and stuff as too busy sometimes. So that's makes you want to contact your representative.
They're real busy and they hear from a lot of people, but I flew up to DC and went and knocked on my representative's door, and I didn't have an appointment, and he came out and he shook my hand and he talked to me and he was so thrilled. And I didn't speak to every representative that I knocked on the door of, but I did speak to a lot of their staff, and they were often just so thrilled that there was an engaged citizen. And so with the Food Policy Council, the Florida Food Policy Council, what we're focused on, rather than beating any drums or lobbying for any specific policies, what the Food Policy Council is focused on is empowering Florida residents to become engaged food citizens. So we inspire, we teach, we provide tools and networking and connection. For you, Grace, if you have a drum you want to beat about GMOs, we're not going to beat your drum for you, but we're going to teach you how to beat it loudly and effectively, and we're going to point you in the direction to go.
Awesome. Do you work with other states or just strictly Florida? Like, do you have like sister chapters or something?
So food policy councils, there are food policy councils in almost every state in the nation.
Okay.
And there are loose groups.
But it's not like a national organization with
Not yet.
Not yet.
Johns Hopkins, the Center for a Livable Future, has a really great food policy sort of resource center. They're kind of the educational academic leader in the field.
That's interesting. Because it's like the hospital, right? John Hopkins, like the university, like they have, everything going on.
Right. They've got a lot. They're a teaching university, so it's not just a hospital, yeah.
But it's cool because, that particular university and hospital and everything, like they're on the forefront of medicine. And it's interesting that who would have thought nutrition and health, so I wanted to get a little more into that. What is with wellness, I'm always weary of people who are like, I feel like there's a lot of grifters in the like health and wellness community, because I feel like when you like a wellness coach, you really have to make sure that they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because
I hear you, Greg.
Like you gotta be like, I'm not a nutritionist. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference.
When you work with any professional, you want to make sure that they're professional.
Yeah, exactly. And but just in the wellness category in general, I feel like there's a lot to sift through. So that's one of the things I wanted to try to like help people with on this channel is kind of like, what's the difference between like a food fad and like something that's actually like new science and nutritional studies, and like, you should right off the bat, you're like, there's a lot of peer-reviewed studies about this and that. And I'm like, that's important, peer review.
The important thing to understand about health and wellness and nutrition is that everybody is different. And everybody is different in a year or 5 years or 10 years than it is today. So we do see a lot of fads, but I believe that it's based on people's anecdotal personal experience. So the Mediterranean diet saved me from heart disease, and I lost 50 pounds and my skin cleared up, and that's true for that person.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it will necessarily be true for you.
Exactly.
You might thrive on a keto diet, You might thrive on just eating what your body tells you to eat rather than naming anything. So with wellness, what's so important is to really trust your own judgment and develop a relationship with yourself and your own body, so you know what's true for you in that moment, as opposed to what's true for someone else maybe 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah. I also think that is becoming more of like an accepted idea too, where everybody is different, I feel like when I was growing up, it was like, if the diet didn't work for you, there must be something wrong with you. Which I always thought was weird.
People think science is something that's set in stone. That's just the way the world is, it's science. The truth is, if you ask a scientist, they're going to tell you that they don't have the right answers. They just have an answer right now.
Yeah.
So as a human race, our body of knowledge continues to grow. We've learned things in the 30 years since you and I were children that affect our interaction with nutrition and with food. It doesn't mean that, so it's just that we're continuing to learn as we grow and as we evolve. And that's what's really important to understand about science, is that it's continually evolving.
Which is fun. Makes it, fun to learn new things.
It'd be kind of boring if nothing ever changed and that was it.
Yeah.
You just do the same thing every day forever.
Yeah. But it's also cool because you get to use your imagination. And like, I remember when I was a kid, like imagining how cool it would be to have like a real touch screen, you know? Or like a computer thing, like a video game that was in color. Like,
Oh, wow.
so it's just, it's cool to be living in that future. And if nothing ever changed, you'd like imagination would go down the toilet, I think.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now?
So now I am bringing a food hub to Southeast Florida. And food hubs consist of multiple different uses, and they can look different wherever they are in whatever locale they're located in. Our food hub is going to be, phase one will be a shared use kitchen for caterers, food truck operators, cottage industry folks, chefs. And adjacent to that is a food hall with kiosks for 10 vendors.
So like a commissary kitchen that will feed the food hall as well? Like for them to work out of?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So are the kiosks, they have a lot of these things in Europe. One of my favorites was the Copenhagen street food one.
Mm-hmm.
They moved it. It used to be on Paper Island and they moved it. I haven't been to the new one, but it was so cool. But because we're in Florida, I was actually talking to a friend about this. I feel like that's the move with the COVID is outdoor, like, 6 feet apart, everything, like kiosks for people to go eat, and you can have enough space to spread out and be safe, but still actually go do something.
Yeah, our facility was designed after COVID, so with social distancing measures in mind. And the building that we're in, so the YMCA is building a brand new structure, 4-story structure in the traditionally African-American neighborhood of Fort Lauderdale. It was actually segregated 50 years ago, and you had to have a card, an ID card, to be able to enter and exit after dusk.
Wow.
Wild. And so we're opening our food hub in the ground floor of the YMCA, and so we've got social distancing in mind as you navigate the food hub. And then there's a park across the street. There's a couple of patios. There's lots of different areas where folks can go and just enjoy being out and be safe at the same time.
So they have something like that in the Grandview Market in what town? So similar to that?
Similar, but the difference is really we're focused on being a culinary incubator.
Okay.
So we're partnering with local nonprofits to offer apprenticeship programming for young people and culinary entrepreneurship and capacity building for folks that are already in business or want to start their own business. And we're looking at job skills training for folks who just want to learn some more skills so that they can increase their income. The Grandview Market is really targeting a different type of entrepreneur.
Yeah, one of the things I've heard, like the word on the street, is the rent for the people in the Grandview Market. It's really high. So for the people that want to have their business in the food hub, is that like lower because they're helping to teach people and all that stuff? And
yeah,
being in it's predominantly Black neighborhood, are you going to be showcasing like Black chefs and stuff? Because tend to get a lot of press.
Most food halls have a monthly rent, and then they add on 5 or 10% of a revenue share once you're in operation. I don't believe in that. So are you familiar with benefit corporations?
That's like a nonprofit that's not a nonprofit, right? Like you can make money.
It's a for-profit entity, like a C
Yeah.
Corp or an S Corp. But the difference is that it allows people to safeguard a triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. In most business entities, especially when you have investors or shareholders, they're always looking to maximize the bottom line, always maximize the profit. In a benefit corporation, you're actually, according to the structure of the entity, you're focusing not just on financial profit, but on social impact and environmental impact. So we are registering as a benefit. We are registered as a Florida benefit corporation, on our way to becoming a certified B Corp after 1 year of operation. And I'm all about, I want to make money. I'm not going to lie. I believe in being financially successful. I don't need to make ridiculous amounts of money. And I don't need my making money to interrupt you being able to get ahead. So what we're focused on is lowering the barriers to entry for everybody. We're working with local nonprofits we're in discussion with about getting some funding for some programs for the entrepreneurs to help them get in, to help with deposits. We're partnered with a couple of the business development organizations. So if, let's say, you want to open up a booth in the food hall, but you don't even have a business plan, then we're going to match you up with somebody with a business plan. And what we did was we sat down and we looked at the pain points of culinary entrepreneurs. 90% of restaurants go out of business in the first 3 years. We dissected why. Most of the time, they're undercapitalized and they're undermanaged. Food entrepreneurs don't necessarily know how to run a business. They do know how to cook good food. So what we've done is we said, all right, I don't want any of that 5%, 10% after the fact share your revenue. I'm going to tell you one fee for the rent, the internet, the marketing, the website, group buying power. We're putting in the POS system, so you don't have to worry about that. And all of that is just one very affordable rent. And then you get to keep all your profit.
That's amazing.
Don't get me wrong. I could have A, doubled the rent, and B, added on another 5% or 10% after the fact. Yeah. And I could have gotten people to come in and I could have made more money. But it doesn't work for me because that's not the picture of the world that I want to live in.
Okay.
So I chose to actually take actions in alignment with the world that I want to see.
Is there I just can see it. Number one, are there still spots available? Can we put a link in the description and
There are spots available. We are so new. This whole project happened so fast because, we're in the middle of COVID back in July. The YMCA is building this new building. They told their consultant they wanted a food hub. He comes back he knew that he was a colleague of mine. We'd worked together in the past. He came to me and said, hey, can you help with this project? Consult on this project. And then in the next 2 months, it was decided that I was going to run it and open it and raise the money to get it off the ground. And so we don't have a website yet. We are setting up a WeFunder campaign. Have you heard of, so you must have heard of Gofundme.
Yeah.
WeFunder is a crowdsourcing platform, but instead of donations, it's investment.
Okay, so basically they can expect a return on their investment?
So anybody who gives money through the WeFunder platform gets a 1.5 revenue share. So that means if you invest $100 with me, over the agreed upon length of time of your investment, which is usually 5 to 7 years, you're going to get $150 back.
That's great.
It's a great return.
Yeah.
In that case, we'd probably keep it to a 5-year term. And that way you're looking at 10% a year. I mean, that's a pretty good investment right now, although the market's been all over the place. So we are setting the WeFunder up. And actually, that's going to be the link that I'll be able to give you. I just don't have it right now because it's not actually live yet. It should be live this week.
Okay. This video is probably going to go, they go on Thursdays, so that's not a problem.
Actually, I will send you the link. And even if it's not live, people can still see it and they can mark it to remember it so they can get notifications when it goes live.
That's amazing. Also, so they're going to have the booths, right? Is there going to be, one of the things that bothers me a lot is that in a restaurant, usually the hourly workers aren't really making that much money. Is there going to be a minimum wage for those people who are washing dishes and waiting tables and stuff like that?
We don't have people washing dishes and waiting tables. It's not a restaurant.
Well, I mean, they're going to, not waiting tables, but the back of the house, like the cooks and stuff, because it's
the cooks are the business owners.
Okay, so if I start a pie business and like if it's just like the demand of my booth might be bigger than what I as one person can put out. So, but maybe I don't want, I don't know, Chris or whatever to be an owner in my business, but I need extra help. Is there going to be can that person pay him whatever they want? Or is it like, you know what I mean?
Yes. So it is their business. So they can make whatever choices they want to make.
Okay.
We are a community and we have guidelines and recommendations that we'll be suggesting to people. Any employees of the actual hub, there's a $15 minimum wage for our employees.
Okay. This is going to be really cool. I'm excited about it.
I'm pretty excited too. We need to raise $100,000. The project is going to cost $650,000 to build out the space, buy the equipment, get everything set up, get the website, all that stuff together. We have $200,000 from tenant improvement through our lease with the YMCA. So there's $200,000 right there for the build out. We think the build out is going to be about $350,000. We're still waiting for final quotes back from the GC. So we've got $200,000 there. I'm in negotiations with the Black Business Investment Fund, BBIF.
Okay.
They are an amazing organization. They're a non-traditional lender called the Community Development Financial Institution. And they were created for people like me who can't necessarily walk into a traditional bank and get a loan for $250,000. But I have a great project. I have a lot of community support. I have a very good, solid reputation. And so these non-traditional lenders take all of that into account when they make the decisions to do the lending. So we're in negotiation now to finance the equipment purchase, which is about $200,000 through this CDFI. And that'll be a loan, a business loan that we take on. And we're still looking to cover this funding gap of about $250,000.
Okay.
So the WeFunder campaign, we're going to be really aiming to raise about $150,000 from WeFunder. The money's expensive through WeFunder, so we're trying to limit our exposure there.
Money is expensive as in they take a big cut from it, or?
Well, they're recommending this 1.5 times return. So you're looking at a 50% ROI. It's really a 10%.
But does the
and then the platform
7.5%. 7.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So the money works out to be expensive, but we want to give people the opportunity who live in the neighborhood to actually invest in the food hub and profit from it, because we really are this whole project. Well, we talk about food a lot. It's really a big focus is on economic empowerment. We don't want to just give people more food and hope that eventually the system, it's all going to get better. We recognize that people will buy their own food when they don't have to choose between keeping the lights on, paying the rent, or putting food on the table.
That's true.
Making enough money to meet their needs. Most people don't want handouts, and they just want to get on with their lives. So we're really looking at how we can bridge the gaps and just connect people to the resources that are already out there.
And how about as far as the types of restaurants, like going into the food hub? One of the things from Copenhagen street food was they all had to be different from each other, So is that something you're going to implement in there, or?
Diversity is important, and variety, right? Like none of us want to go and see 6 hamburger joints and 1 coffee place and 2 donut places.
Yeah.
So we're definitely curating the businesses around variety, around diversity. We've got requests. We've got vegan people looking at it. We've got barbecue people talking about it. Really the gamut. But what we have done, so one of the first things we did actually when we started this project was put together an advisory group of local community leaders. So civic association leaders, local entrepreneurs, executive directors of nonprofits that operate in the 33311 zip code, really grassroots, people who live and work and play in this area. And so we are so that advisory group throughout this process over the last few months has put together the vision statement. We've put together guidelines as far as sourcing locally and sustainably, and health guidelines as far as what percentage of the vendors do we want to have a healthy food focus, and what percentage are we okay just having ice cream and donuts. And so we've really put a lot of thought and effort from a broad group of community members to be able to curate all of these various points.
And as far as equipment goes, you mentioned you're buying a lot of equipment. So are the businesses obviously like an ice cream place, it has different equipment needs than like, a burger place. So is there a help with buying equipment for the restaurant and stuff?
We are setting the kitchen up.
Okay.
With a very wide range of equipment. We're targeting caterers, which they could be preparing anything, food truck operators, and bakers.
Okay.
If your business needs some specialty equipment, then it's on you to purchase that equipment.
Okay.
You can ask the food hub, and if we see it as a viable option and it's a sound business choice, then the food hub might purchase that, but there's no guarantee.
And would you, because I'm sure a lot of the people coming into the restaurant industry, like me and you, can't walk into a traditional bank and get a traditional loan. So if they are looking to purchase that specialty equipment, are there people you can put them in contact with that will give them a loan?
I can't guarantee
well,
that.
Not guaranteed, but
I can point people in the direction of where to ask.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's awesome. Because I know like ice cream machines, like $20,000. You know what I mean? Not cheap. Deck ovens, all cheap. That stuff, if you're trying to do bread, like it's totally different than, some other baked stuff. But
yeah. So we're trying to be, we're trying to give as many people as possible a foot in the door and a leg up. And like I said, we're all I feel like we're a bunch of kids at an Easter egg hunt, and we're all running out and we're grabbing the resources. Oh, I know about this, and they might want to invest. And oh, I know about this. And let's bring that organization. They have a great program. And we're coming back, our whole team, and we've got our spoils and our Easter eggs. And we're like, this is what we got, everybody. We're putting it on the table. And then it's like, all right, well, what do you need? Oh, well, we've got some of that. Here, you have some of that. Oh, what do you need? Oh, we've got some of that too. Yep, you can, so it's like we're sharing, and we're all giving and getting what we need. It's not just a getting, it's a giving too.
Yeah.
Mildred, who's on our advisory board, she's a local entrepreneur who wants to have a booth in the food hall. Well, she needs some, we're working on her business plan, and we're working on connecting her with the financial resources for the startup capital. And at the same time, she's showing up at our meetings and sending us articles and helping us with naming the food hub. So there's a giving and a receiving that, to me, is really the whole purpose of the experiment we call life.
So it's not going to be called the food hub. It's going to be called something else.
On what it's going to be called. Our working name right now, I'd love your feedback, and I'd love your listeners' feedback too. Right now, what we're working on is calling it The Feast, Sistrunk.
Sorry, that was it?
So the neighborhood is Sistrunk, Sistrunk.
Okay.
And we do plan on having a food hub in every city, in every neighborhood throughout the state of Florida, if not the country, if not the world. So we're looking at down the road, we'll have The Feast, and it rolls off the tongue Friday night. Hey, let's go meet at The Feast for dinner.
Oh,
you're going to have lunch on Sunday and yoga? And then hyphen Sistrunk, which is the name of the neighborhood. And then when we go to Tampa, it'll be The Feast Tampa and The Feast Gainesville and The Feast Tallahassee.
That's great. I like that.
So that's our working title, but we're very open to suggestions.
Nailed it. That's cool. I had a question. This happens to me at least once a podcast, because they're always talking about something and then it flies away. I'll come back to it, I guess. But one thing is I would love to interview some of the people that start the booths. I think that would be really cool to learn more about the chefs.
We don't have anybody officially signed on yet. We're in negotiations with a number of people.
And it's 10 booths, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be a like a time limit, so this way they like change out every couple years, or?
No, there isn't going to be like a hard stop time limit. There are annual leases.
Okay.
So you're on a 1-year rotation. And I think we're going to just, and this is a great question, actually. I don't think we've even addressed, I don't think this question has come up yet with the advisory group. So thank you so much. I don't think we're ever going to be like, you have to get out of here in 2 years, but the idea is we want to give as many people a chance as we can. Yeah. So we'll always be looking at how we can develop people and move them through.
Yeah, because, it's such a great opportunity, and I mean, you could get pretty comfortable. So I just think, it should definitely be an incubator more than you stay there forever, because you got to keep growing.
Yeah. And, whether you want to grow or not, you might reach the point where you're happy. And we want, as I said earlier, we just want to make sure we make these opportunities as available
for other people. Yeah.
As many people as possible.
Yeah.
So some people might, rather than doing like an upwards move, they might do a lateral move when they leave the hub. And that's okay. As long as, it's so funny. I'm an entrepreneur. So when I'm talking about it, I keep talking about empowering people to start their own business. But some people don't want to start their own business. A lot of people don't want to start their own business. They might want to increase their skills so they can get paid more at the job they're in. So we're really we're really creating an environment where we can meet everybody where they're at, not just the entrepreneur who wants to start a business, but also the person who just wants to get more training or expand.
Now, obviously, there's going to be cooking training, but
yes.
But is there going to be other opportunities, maybe business training or?
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
On site in the same building. So we're on the ground floor. On the 4th floor, Broward College, which is our local community college. It's one of the top 10 community colleges in the nation. They are opening a satellite campus with a focus on professional certification courses, all in careers that will garner a minimum of $15 to $18 an hour when you leave your certification course.
Okay.
So that's on the top floor. And then also on the fourth floor is the Mosaic Group co-working space, and they are a business incubator. So already on site, we've got 2 resources, and then we've partnered with a couple of other city and nonprofit resources as far as business development.
All right. And also, I think the hardest part for a lot of people in the culinary industry is literally like the accounting part of it, like the taxes and the, profit loss statements and all that fun stuff. They're going to be a course on that because
we're a community.
yeah.
So we're going to be offering development and support ongoing. One of the best practices that we learned from watching other food halls go through the pandemic was that having a point of sale system that could that facilitated the customer ordering from the different locations. So in a lot of food halls, each business is independent. So you might have your own point of sale and I might have my own point of sale. And then the cheeseburger guy has his point of sale. But let's say the mom who's got 3 kids and a husband and just wants to order dinner, like she's not going to go through that 5 different times at 5 different places. So what we're doing is we're setting up the Toast point of sale system, which has impeccable bookkeeping. And it works with a lot of accounting software. So again, we're solving all of these pain points for people. So you don't have to come into this being a business mastermind.
Okay, sorry. For the Toast system, making it easier, are you saying that you still have to pay at every stall? No?
Not if you're ordering online, contactless ordering from the internet.
Okay.
You're doing an online internet order.
I'm still in pre-COVID time.
Hey, we're moving with the times here. This is the 21st century food hub.
Not gone out a lot since the pandemic.
Well, I know, and most of us haven't. But that was one of the issues was you had to pay 5 different times. And so that was prohibitive.
Like a website, and you pick what you want from each stall and then go pick it up from each stall.
And we're going to have these lockers like Amazon or Home Depot does, where you can order your stuff and then go to this little locker and punch in your code and grab your food or your thing and leave. You don't have to talk to anybody or touch anybody. We're doing that too.
Wow. You know what that reminds me of? You ever see the pictures of I think it was like the 50s where they had like the wall of food and you would put the quarter in or whatever.
Oh no.
Really cool. I gotta remember I had to do like a research paper on like food a long time ago, and I was like, there's like in the back it was like a full working kitchen, and then the front it was like key lime pie, Salisbury steak, it was just like, wow, that's really cool. But wow, yeah, so you get a locker. Does that dampen the experience of the restaurant at all, like the booth? Or no?
Well, we're talking about people who don't want any contact with anyone else, so I don't think they're too worried about it.
They're not too worried about it.
I think they just want to get their food and go home.
But then there's that would be like the to-go, and then there's still the traditional walk around and see all the kiosks.
Yeah. And again, it was designed with COVID and social distancing in mind. So we've got the flow of traffic and the sanitation stations and everything like that.
And is there going to be a mask kiosk where you can buy a mask that says the feast on it?
No, we decided to have only food booths because with 10, it's not that many. So we wanted to have enough variety. So no mask booth.
So, I mean, that's going to be some good merch, though. I'm just saying, the feast.
That would be some good merch. You're not kidding. Maybe I'll do that as a perk for the investment. I was supposed to offer investors a perk. And somebody said like canvas bags. But a face mask that said the feast would be cool.
That would be cool. And then it's like also free advertising, and it's somebody that's invested in it. So they'll be like, let me tell you about what the feast is.
That would be cool. I like it.
Can't miss it. It's right on their face.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Now I just got to raise the money to print the masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I feel good about our money raising ventures. I think we're in a good position. I feel pretty confident that the CDFI is going to end up giving us a loan. And then we'll be really eligible for grants next year. There's tons of grant money available for these types of endeavors. We're just on a funny timeline where we don't match up with any of them right now.
I worked a little bit at a nonprofit teaching people how to cook. And it seems like grant writing is a very complicated thing. And is it the language? Like everything has to be to the T?
Yeah, it's a skill. It's definitely a skill. People make a profession out of it. So
yeah, they literally had a grant writer. Like that was her job. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like because there are a lot of grants available though, would you encourage someone who has no experience writing grants to try to get a grant? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's how I started.
Yeah, you just go for it. Like, would they come back and be like, this is what's wrong with this and why we're not giving it to you, and retry?
Some will. Some will, some won't. It just depends on the grant and the funder. But yeah, I absolutely think that if you have an idea and there's some funding out there, and I think everybody should try it. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get the grant initially, but you got to start somewhere, right?
That's true. Do you, is there a specific place you should look? Like they're from the government, right? Or no?
Oh, grants come from all different types of funders.
Yeah.
The government grants are the hardest to write for and to execute. So I would say don't start there.
Okay.
Look for private money. Corporations have foundations. Walmart has a foundation. Most big corporations have foundations through which they do good work in the community.
Okay. That helps the local community a lot, huh?
Grace, I've been enjoying our time together. I just noticed the time.
Wow.
I need to get going. I can get over to do the video for our We Funder campaign.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I'm going to go head over and meet Mildred, who's one of our advisors, and Sean, our marketing guy, and Scott, one of my board members, and we're going to do a little filming.
All right. Well, have fun, and I'm gonna, send me all the links and everything. I definitely I would love to actually come there and like film with you, like the feast and everything. I think that would be fun.
I want to show. I'd love to share my screen and just show you one thing.
Sure.
You have to enable.
I do. Multiple. Can you do it or no?
Not yet.
Just a minute. It says all. Okay.
Oh, it's not here. Okay. Let me find it. Reasons. Here we go. What I didn't tell you about, I'm going to show you a picture of the hub. This is an architect drawing. And what we're going to have is a photo and video ready booth, demonstration kitchen, right here in the middle. This is actually going to be set up for sound and for lighting and sound and video so that we can film on site.
That's awesome.
Oven, stove, counter, kit prep area, like a little kitchen.
Well, I know a YouTube channel that might want to print that up or something.
Oh yeah. And this is the kitchen. This is the hot cooking stations, and they each have a 6 burner range with an oven. Some have fryers, some have steamers, some have convection ovens, some have stockpot burners. There's walk-in fridge freezer, lots of storage. And then over here, we have cold prep areas.
Nice.
With more reach-in fridges, more storage. This right here is that demonstration kitchen. These are the restrooms. And then you have your 10 kiosks out here in the main food hall area.
That's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. And there's been so much community buy-in and so many people contributing. It's really been, for me, an experience of grace because...
No pun intended.
I started this just with an idea, and I've wanted to build a food hub for 5 years. And I never believed that I could raise $500,000, $500,000 to do anything. And the desire has been so strong, and I've seen other people do it. And then 2 years ago, I just decided I was going to do it. And I started working on it, and I've made a lot of sacrifices and given a lot of myself to this, and so have a lot of others. It's been really beautiful how people are just showing up.
That's awesome. Well, one thing before we go. I don't know if you answered this question or not. With the investment website thing, is there a minimum investment?
$100.
$100? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to put the link to that below, and thank you so much for coming on, and can't wait to see this video.
Thanks for having me, and let's stay in touch and see how we can just continue to support each other.
All right.
All right, Grace. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.